Ingram Show broadcasts from the heart of the Manatee Pocket, atop the Fish House District and a marina, Port Salerno's hidden gem. Now here's Casey Ingram Unleashed.
See him in the shadows, Ingram calls the shots, speaking truth to power where the rebels lost. Voices rising, anger crackles through the air. Casey's being unleashed, raising hell without a care.
Welcome to another episode of the Casey Ingram Show Unleashed, where we dig into the policies, people, and forces shaping the communities we live in. Today, we're tackling a hot topic: the growing influence of corporate investors in the housing market, specifically their stake in single-family homes, which includes a discussion on Senate Bill 1118, a bill currently introduced in Florida that, if passed, further erodes home rule and expands development in our rural communities. Joining me is Vice Mayor Chris Collins, a strong advocate for preserving single-family neighborhoods for actual families, not for hedge funds, REITs, or Wall Street portfolios. With Florida seeing more than 117,000 single-family homes owned by corporate investors, and some metro areas like Jacksonville are hitting 21% corporate ownership in the rental market, this conversation couldn't come at a more critical time. Vice Mayor Collins is on the front lines of this issue, working to keep the American dream of homeownership alive for working families. Whether you're a renter, a homeowner, or someone priced out of the market, this is a conversation you won't want to miss. Commissioner Vice Mayor Chris Boss Collins is from the city of Stuart. Chris Collins, affectionately known around town as Boss Collins, serves as the Vice Mayor and Group 3 Commissioner for the city of Stuart, Florida. First elected in September 2022, his current term runs through 2026. Known for his confident leadership style and deep commitment to the community, Boss isn't just a nickname, it's a reflection of the respect he's earned from residents and colleagues alike. Whether he's advocating for smart growth, championing quality of life improvements, or navigating the day-to-day decisions that shape Stuart's future, Collins brings the energy and focus of someone who truly loves his city. When he's not at City Hall or meeting with constituents, you might find him engaging with the public through his Facebook page, keeping residents informed with updates and just the right dose of humor. His approachability, paired with a no-nonsense dedication to getting things done, has made him one of Stuart's most recognizable and trusted public servants. Boss Collins may sound like a title from a classic film, but here in Stuart, it's just our way of saying he's the guy who shows up, leads with heart, and makes things happen. So I appreciate you joining me today, Vice Mayor Collins, and we have a lot to discuss. And
what an introduction.
Well, you know what? It's true. It's a name that has evolved, and really that's what it's evolved into. And we
credit to Tom Campenny.
That's right, Tom.
Thank you for the boss.
It has really caught on,
yes.
And your dedication and commitment has really come through with that. And Boss Collins is evolved into an endearing name here in the community. So
yeah, at first it was a pejorative for me.
Exactly, it does change. So we've got a lot.
I appreciate you taking this on, because this is a huge issue right now that most people are not aware of. SB 1118.
SB 1118, I really wanted to do an update because it ties into the show so well.
Yeah.
It's changing the face of single-family homes. SB 1118 is really potentially changing our rural lands. And that's going to be turning into a lot of could be small single-family homes, could be multi-family, residential. It changes things. It's really out of control.
It is urbanizing ag land.
That's exactly what it is.
It is turning your agricultural areas into cities.
It is. And for those of you who are wondering, what is SB 118? It was proposed by Senator McClain, and then in the House, it's Representative Steele that proposed HB 1209. It strips communities of their ability to guide responsible growth by allowing certain property owners to bypass local zoning and land use rules. Specifically, these bills would override local planning authority by requiring local governments to automatically approve development in areas considered agricultural enclaves, and I'll go into what that is in a minute, and so-called infill residential development. Infill residential projects can be up to 100 acres in agricultural enclaves, could be thousands of acres in size. Expands the types of properties that qualify as agricultural enclaves and requires local governments to treat parcels adjacent to an urban service district as if they were inside of the urban service district. This could open floodgates for development in areas specifically reserved by counties to remain rural and agricultural. It also prohibits local governments from restricting residential densities and optional elements of their comprehensive plans. It also proposes that HOAs can no longer be required to collect fees for private recreational amenities, so that could affect how gated communities and other private developments fund and maintain their shared spaces. And one little more caveat before we get into it. Senator McLean on March 19th filed a new version of the bill which not only bans local initiatives or referendums regarding land development regulation, but it also makes the ban retroactive to June 1st, 2011.
Nice.
2011. For example, it would dismantle a rural boundary charter amendment that passed by 73% of voters in Orange County just this last November, and as well as any other referendums enacted after June 1st of 2011. So it tells me there's some things that happened in 2011 that they want to reverse, that they're going back.
It tells me the state legislature is a swamp.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been paying attention to what the mutiny against, Governor DeSantis that's going on, the state legislature is out of control. And the highlight that I will give you is if your 3 local representatives vote for any part of this, you have 0 representation at the state. You have 0 representation, because that is not the Martin County difference at all.
It's not.
So I hope all eyes are on how these people vote.
And Chris, you're absolutely right. Commissioner Collins, we really need to pay attention to how our representatives are voting on this. So far, they've all been quiet. I haven't heard any of them make a statement. We're talking about Representative Snyder, Representative Overdorf, and Senator Harrell, nor have they had a chance to vote on this yet. So the vote says everything. So we're definitely watching this bill. Right now, it's sitting in. Let me see. I think it's a subcommittee in regulated industries. It passed its first community affairs, by a vote of 5-3. Senators Leak, Pasadomo, Trumbull, Representative Fine, who was just elected to Congress, and McLean were the ones that voted for it. Pizzo, Sharif, and Jones voted against it. So that's where it's at right now. We're really, really watching this bill.
I thought SB 102 was bad, that allowed the conversion of your industrial and commercial properties to apartments.
I'm glad you brought that up.
This is a whole nother round.
It is, and that was another thing that took away.
Over-urbanizing urban areas, and now you're urbanizing agricultural areas.
And taking away home rule. You have no say with the Live Local Act, SB 102.
Correct.
And this one, what's it called? The Boundary Act, the Rural Boundary Act, I think it is. So
it
SB
is homogenizing all of Florida, all of your different little charming coastal towns, all towns in Florida, all cities in Florida, homogenizing them into like winter springs. That's it. It's all mixed use and apartments and now even in your agricultural areas.
And it's definitely for the big developers to come in.
Many people are frustrated with Newfield.
Yeah.
So local people who are aware of what was put in Palm City with the county commission, the Kiplinger property, puts 4,200 doors and 1.1 million acres of commercial space where there were cows.
Yeah.
That when people ask, man, how do commissions contribute to traffic? Because that's always a hot issue come election time.
Definitely.
Commissioners don't have any. Yes, they do. When they allow land that has cows to now have 12 to 14,000 people and over 1 million square feet of commercial space, that is going to impact traffic in Palm City. It's going to be very hard to navigate. And it turns Martin County, can you tell I'm upset about this? It turns Martin County into like New York, where you have boroughs and you don't leave your borough. If you're in the Palm City borough, or if you're in the City of Stewart borough, or the Jensen borough, it's going to take you an hour and a half to get to the other one. So you just stay in your borough. Well, that's what Newfield did, and people are furious about it. Story down south, like Hobe Sound, is another one that's brewing, that's in the application phase with the county. And so we have our own internal, conflict within Martin County, and hopefully we've learned our lesson, and we're learning our lesson. This kind of a thing institutes it as state law.
And let me add a couple things to that.
Sure.
First of all, for the first time, I'm waiting in traffic on the east side of Palm City Bridge going out on Martin Downs. And I've lived here for 15 years. I've never had that happen. And there's so much traffic right now that's going
Wait
east
till
and
those
west.
12,000 people are coming to Costco.
Oh, for sure. Yes, there's another one. There's another one with traffic.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to point out there is Our budget in Martin County has increased. It was over 400 million. I think I want to say in 2020. Now it's over 600 million, 700 million, almost 700 million. And in between, these developments are happening, and they're supposed to pay for themselves. But you know what has asked for a lot more money? Fire departments,
Right.
police. Why? They need more response personnel for these new communities. So who's paying for it? We are.
The cost to service new humans it's not a linear curve. It's not that you get these many more people, and so it's parabolic because of the infrastructure required to service people.
I'm going to take a quick break here. Thank my sponsors. When I get back, I told you I was going to tell you the definition of agricultural enclave. Such a nice little term. We'll go over that right when we're back here in just a minute.
Discover the Fish House District in Marina, Port Salerno's ultimate waterfront escape. Nestled in the heart of Port Salerno and the breathtaking Manatee Pocket, the Fish House District in Marina is your go-to destination for fresh seafood, craft cocktails, and an unforgettable waterfront vibe. Drop anchor at the Pearl, the district's swanky new hotspot, serving up expertly crafted drinks and the freshest catches. Explore the district, unwind by the water, and top off your experience with a scoop or two of the best ice cream in Martin County at Captain Hook's, a local favorite known for its rich, creamy flavors that keep visitors coming back for more. Feeling adventurous? Stretch and relax with aerial yoga at the OM Shack. From laid-back days to lively nights, there's something for everyone. Come see what the buzz is all about. Visit the Fish House District in Marina at 4745 Southeast DeSoto Avenue in Port Salerno, right on the Manatee Pocket, where coastal charm meets excitement.
If you love today's show, thank the experts at Impactful Media Group. And if you want your next event, project, or campaign to shine just like this, visit impactfulmedia.com. Okay, so when we left, all right, mics are hot now. So I love it when we're live. When I left, I said we're going to define what agricultural enclave is. So it's interesting. It means an unincorporated, undeveloped parcel that is owned by a single person or entity, has been in continuous use for bona fide agricultural purposes for a period of 5 years prior to the date of the Comprehensive Plan Amendment application, is surrounded on at least 75% of its perimeter by property that has existing industrial, commercial, or residential development, property that the local government has designated in the local government's comprehensive plan, zoning map, and future land use map as land that is to be developed for industrial, commercial, or residential purposes, and at least 75% of such property is existing industrial, commercial, or residential development. Now remember, a lot of our ag land can have residential on it, but it'd be 1 unit for 20 acres. Also, it has public services, including water, wastewater, transportation, schools, and recreation facilities available, or such public services are scheduled in the capital improvement element to be provided by the local government, or can be provided by an alternative provider of the local government infrastructure in order to ensure consistency and applicable concurrency provisions, and does not exceed 1,280 acres. However, if the property is surrounded by existing or authorized residential development that will result in a density at build-out of at least 1,000 residents per square mile, then the area shall be determined to be urban and the parcel may not exceed 4,480 acres. And
so crazy.
If this passes, again, this is taking away home rule. This will be an administrative procedure that the commissioners no longer get a vote in or a say in. Residents don't get a say in.
That's the main point.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So previously, in unincorporated Martin County, for a parcel that is not within the urban services boundary to be considered for this kind of development, it would have to go in front of the commission. They do these comp plan amendments, which everybody hates.
Yep.
Everybody hates.
Yep.
Now that doesn't even have to happen.
No.
It's done administratively inside of the county and
With-
within a very tight time frame as they determine, the state. So you don't even really have time to look at this and make sure it even makes sense for traffic and
Sounds
flooding.
like pass it so we can see what's in it.
Right.
We've heard that before. You know what? Have you heard of there's a project, and when I was doing forums for the county commission last fall, and I came across this project called Waterside. I don't know if you've
Tell
heard
me
of
more.
it. All right, I'm going to tell you more. It's out on 96th Street. It's pretty much on the corner of Cantor and 96th. Waterside is a project that is part of a PUD for what's an industrial park out there, pretty much almost on the corner of Cantor and 96th. It's a standalone urban service district that was put in for the industrial park. Sounded great. Part of that park was there was agricultural land around it, and part of the guarantees that they gave the county to get this urban service district passed for the industrial park is the rest of the land was not going to be developed. It was going to remain agricultural. And as a matter of fact, I brought up a clip from that forum that explains exactly what I'm talking about, because it's clear and concise, and I don't have to reiterate it. Iggy, if you can play that clip. Moving on to our next question, we're going to talk about the Waterside project. It'll be slide number 3. If you could please listen to the history of this project, as it's a representation of the intense pressure to move the urban service boundary. There will be 2 questions at the end of this. The land for the proposed Waterside development was originally zoned agriculture. In 2010, during the Great Recession, a portion was rezoned to commercial waterfront industrial in hopes of spurring jobs in our local economy for one of our most important industries, the marine industry. This included an approval for a 500,000 square foot building. However, at the time of the approval, it was not realized by the county or the applicant that the Army Corps of Engineers had a perpetual easement to the waterfront portion, making the waterfront inaccessible and the project not viable. The land remained undeveloped until 2020, when the Coulter Group purchased the land and proposed the KL Waterside Industrial Park project with a 1 million square foot plus warehouse, over double the size of the original building approval. Coulter requested to swap the agricultural portion that abutted Canner Highway with the industrial commercial portion that abutted 96th Street, in large part to avoid more traffic and semis along 96th because of Crystal Lake Elementary School that is located there, as well as the residential homes. In 2022, Coulter broke ground after the comp plan amendment was approved with conditions, notably among slide 4. No change. Uses on the subject property shall be limited to non-residential uses. Residential uses shall not be permitted. Secondly, staff recommended approval with no net loss in agriculture land, no increase in urban land. Also, in 2022, Coulter parceled off the agriculture portion of the parcel and purchased an abutting agricultural parcel of nearly 100 acres. Coulter, along with the same land planner that represented the industrial park, is now proposing the following. Slide 5. Waterside is requesting a comp plan amendment and land use change for its proposal of 1,000 single-family homes with a density of 2.7 units per acre. That's nearly 3 homes per acre on land currently zoned for 1 unit per 20 acres. All right, we're back. So you can see, Chris, we were just talking about this Waterside project. They had the commission approve an industrial park outside of the urban service boundary. It traded off land that was agricultural and promised it would always be agricultural. As soon as that was approved, they bought another, I think it was 100 acres, that's contiguous. And they've put in an application to develop Waterside, which is 1,000 homes on, I think it's 375 acres, yes. 1,000 single family. This is outside the urban service boundary. Mm-hmm. But folks, there's industrial, there's residential right across the street, and commercial, everything that wraps into this bill of Senate Bill 1118. I brought this in because I asked all the commissioners when they were running, they're like, no, we cannot support that. They promised it would remain agricultural. It's outside the urban service boundary. Therefore, they would not approve it. But with this bill, it goes through.
It shows how bad of a decision it was to create these freestanding urban service districts, because now you've got these anchors that you can basically interconnect all of it and develop it and make it one giant urban area. And what does that do to the green space, to the Martin County difference, to the ability of a county to even be sustainable and have enough agricultural land to support itself?
And I think...
What are we doing?
I agree with you 100%. And Chris, what makes me wonder about this, the Coulter Group it's a huge, huge company. It has 5 divisions in southeastern United States. They do planned communities, luxury high-rise condominiums, multifamily apartments, and branded hotels. Very, very large company. They started this project 3 years ago, when there was no chance of supposedly having a development outside the urban service boundary, and now this bill is almost tailor-made for this. And I don't know how many other projects across the state may be in the same type of area. This is going to go to the LPA very shortly. It's been in the pipeline that long. This is where it's important, I think, as well, that we know who we're electing on the state level, because I feel like this bill is tailor-made to certain things. And if they didn't say it was 75% industrial, commercial, residential, they might have said it has to butt up to a state highway. Something crazy where it fits it. I just feel like as residents here, we are up against powers that they're very powerful. They have lobbying money, they have donation monies, and without people like you that are in office that really just love their community and want to protect it, it's
Telling
tough.
you, if Gail Harrell, Toby Overdorf, and John Snyder don't vote no, you have zero representation at the state.
And you need to remember that.
And you need to put new
remember that.
butts in those seats.
Yep.
And somebody that's willing to put the work in needs to run for those seats.
And you just brought up too, it's a slippery slope. We put in that single standing urban service district.
Right. We've
And
created...
now
and
there's utilities that are right next to this property. Very easy to hook up and
your
say,
county commissioners have set the stage for this to just
keep going.
light everything on fire.
And it's a bill like this, to me, that's the ultimate creep, because you're always going to, okay, here's the urban service boundary here, but I'm only right across the street, and it just creeps and creeps, and we're not going to
Here's my issue. Is the state going to pay for the additional police and fire that you're going to need? Is the state going to pay for the schools that need to be built? Is the state going to pay for what you're going to have to do to mitigate traffic and make it so that people can navigate safely here? No,
They will not.
they're not.
They're not.
Your
And we're,
infrastructure, your roads, all the things that are going to get worn down and beat up.
and we're putting in homes. Right now in Martin County, we're just being taxed to death on our real estate. We don't have a lot of commercial income coming in, and you're putting in more homes. And that, folks, everything is going to be on your backs, the homeowner.
And previously, right, your municipal, the people who live in an area could elect the people in that area that they want to lead them and make these decisions to set the tone for the character of Martin County or whatever county. Now you are blanketly homogenizing all of these Florida counties to this tone.
Which is the shame of it, because Martin County is very different. We
Right.
that's what we talk about. You can go north and you can go south, and you know where the Martin County
And
lines
when did
are.
that become the way that Republicans behave?
Oh, I couldn't agree with
I
you
do
more.
not understand how these are conservative values.
Chris, I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know where the Republicans, it's supposed to be less government, more private property rights. And the government's coming in and telling us what we're supposed to do. Private property rights. You were zoned for agricultural. You
Right.
could have,
You bought that.
you bought it, you knew it, and you can build a home, one home every 20 acres.
It is not your
That's-
right
That's it, yes.
to have it be whatever is the most profitable thing today
That's
at the
exactly
expense
right.
of everybody else who owns property that lives here as well.
It's not. It's not a Republican thing to come in and just
No.
reverse.
It's not good for
Communities.
families. Let's go through Republican values. It's going to cause taxes to go up.
Which we're supposed to be against as a Republican.
It's not good for families.
No.
If you want people in single family homes, what's getting built now? What kind of stuff? It's all Winter Springs.
Yes.
It's these cheap brownstones that go up that are all wood frame and they're junky. It's all mixed use. You're turning all of these charming coastal towns, Gale, Toby, John, into Winter Springs and Delray and these places that you can go move to if
It's
you want to live
the
there.
15-minute cities.
But you're making it impossible for me to live here in the kind of Martin County that I've chosen to open my business in and own a home and raise a family. You guys are taking that from us.
And this is what I wanted to do the show on to begin with, was just the single-family homes and how that's changing. And Commissioner Collins, one thing that I've noticed that you're different from any other commissioner, elected official I've seen is you've said, what's happening to our single-family homes? I want families to be able to go out and play in their yard and the children to garden and learn a little bit about, get your hands a little bit dirty, live from the earth a little bit. There's so much more to life than just having a place to lay your head down, and especially when you're raising a family. And something that's happened since 2008 is honestly, the single family homes are starting to be bought up by REITs, Wall Street portfolios, the big companies, to rent them out.
Single-family homes are not profitable. Starter homes and single-family homes are not profitable for private equity and hedge funds.
No,
So
no, and
it's not what ends up getting built.
they can
anymore
withstand
for
the
some
bad
reason.
times because there's so much money in,
Right.
in some of these big corporations that when there's a downturn in the economy, they just sit on it.
Right. And
Where
if you have an apartment building, right, even though a hedge fund or equity can own that, what happens when that's dated? You know, a home, people can choose to invest in and make it nice and keep it up. You decentralize that sort of maintenance, and it's on individual property owners to do that. What happens when a giant, $30 million building starts to wear out and it's no longer profitable to do that? Well, it becomes, low income, or something happens that may not have been the original intent. So you should want to have people invested in your municipality that own that property as a hedge against things that you may not necessarily want.
and you never know what's coming down. And let me go back a little bit and explain the kind of the transition here of the rental market. So post the 2008 foreclosures, after the housing market collapsed, institutional investors purchased large numbers of foreclosed homes at low prices, and they can do that in bulk. The single-family rental market, it's increased, and the investors saw long-term potential for single-family rentals. Low interest rates helped them to do that. They could purchase a lot of homes. The housing supply hasn't kept pace with demand in many areas, making it harder for individual buyers to compete with corporations. By 2022, institutional investors own approximately 2 to 3%, or 1.7 to 2.5 million homes in the United States. Jacksonville is the single-family rentals, or the single-family home rentals, 21% is owned by institutional investors. That's up to 25% in Atlanta, 15% in Tampa. In Florida, firms with ties to Wall Street and private equity such as BlackRock and Invitation Homes own more than 10% of Florida's single-family homes, a rate that is 5 times higher than the national average. And I looked something up, Chris. Back in 1970, the median household income, and this is countrywide, United States, $9,870. The average home price was $23,400. Home to price ratio was 2.4 times. In 2025, the median household income is $80,000. The average home price is $390,000, making the home price to income ratio 4.9 times, double that from 1970. So that's why a lot of people can't purchase homes anymore. Our income's not keeping up with the price of homes.
It's outside of my scope somewhat as a local municipal guy, but it seems like since, the 90s, the middle class has been gutted out. Where America used to be a middle class country, it does seem like there's been a war on that. And not to get too charged going into tariffs and larger macro things that are happening,
Right.
but that seems to be the goal, as far as what I hear, is to start to bring back manufacturing and the kind of jobs and the kind of industry that allowed for a middle class to exist, in the United States.
I agree with you. It's something that is dwindling away, and I think it's very, very sad as we grow as a country to lose what I call the American dream, that home with the white picket fence. And now we're looking at rentals as we got to find people a home to live. So not only do we put them in a rental, but geez, we can make them 500 square feet, call them a half unit, and put a family into that, or a couple people. And Europe has that model where people rent; they never own their homes.
Right.
And we're being pushed towards that. And as America, we just need to really be aware of this and what's happening to our middle class. And I agree with you; the jobs have went away. People are screaming, "Give us affordable housing!" Government, give us affordable housing. And I think there's a bigger issue here.
Yeah, exactly.
How do we get people's income up so they can buy their own housing?
Correct. And you don't want the government to fix these kinds of problems for you.
No, it's only going to be worse. You'll be so dependent on the government that you will have no voice anymore if you keep letting the government fix everything.
Correct. And true, your local municipal governments could approve, all land to be converted to apartments. But in Martin County, for instance, that doesn't mean that people in Martin County are going to have cheaper rent.
No.
But it will mean that people from all over will move to Martin County.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened. The city approved thousands of units and as they've come online, they're people that are not from here that live here now.
That's right.
And it doesn't make your rent any cheaper. In fact, once new units, right, because new construction is expensive, once new units came on the market that were $2,000 a month and up, what happened to all the other apartments and what they cost? Everything, the new
went
market
up.
rate for apartments went up.
It did.
So almost the last thing you want is for the government to
To fix
try to
this.
fix this kind of a problem locally for you. And I said this last time I talked with you, but home ownership isn't for everybody. You know, obviously there's different types of housing, but you should want your municipality to have a robust group of residents that own homes. Property ownership is the hedge against all things bad. If everybody in your municipality rents, that can create wild variability in your local economy. Transient people that are coming and going, they're there for a year or two. You want people rooted in your community, that are invested into your community, that open businesses in your community, that have relationships, you know, that their families thrive, and you have networks of churches and different organizations. You want that in your, and if you're into the vast majority of your, like I keep bringing up Winter Springs because my mother-in-law lives in. We were there yesterday.
Okay, all right.
And it's all mixed use and apartments. And it's like how much, or the McMansions, you know,
Right,
that are
right.
tucked in the back.
That's right.
If that is the future of Florida, these are not communities.
No, and you know, I think we're seeing it in Florida first because everybody wants to move to paradise. It's warm, but this is something that's happening across the nation. You
Okay.
hear, you know, affordable housing. Everybody's screaming it across the nation.
Correct.
We need affordable
Because
housing.
it's a larger macro problem.
Yes, it is, and it is something that needs to be solved. You know, something has got to change at the federal government level, I think, to boost and hopefully some of these tariffs and bringing the manufacturing back is the thing that does this. I grew up in a time. I'm just over 50. I grew up in a time manufacturing was the place for the middle income guy
Right.
to make a really good living. He
Yep.
could afford his home, and
One income.
He lived well. One income.
Could support a family.
That's a big difference now between now and 1970. I brought up there you need two incomes to support
I'm
families.
42, and you know, I feel like people my age and younger don't even want to have kids.
Yes.
It's too scary to even, you know, how do I support children?
And how sad is that? But I get it. I mean, I wouldn't want to have kids now. There's just so many issues that are going out there, and that's one of the biggest things. Just the future for them. Where are they going to live? How are they going to survive? What's this country going to look like in another 50 years? And it's a frightening world out there. And East Stewart, we started this conversation because you said, East Stewart, I'm trying to protect single-family homes.
Correct. The ability
And-
for people to own homes.
You know, it's a
in East
special
Stewart.
neighborhood, Chris, and I know you see this, and I'm envious of it. I said this kind of promoting this podcast today. I'm envious of that neighborhood because they still have generations there.
They still have a community.
Generational knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
they
not just a
still have
neighborhood,
a
it's a
community.
community.
You don't have people that you know the neighbor next door. You can sit on your porches and talk to each other. You can talk about great grandma, what she did on that street at this corner, what have you, and most neighborhoods that's gone anymore. You know, and if this does get gentrified, and that's what it'll do, it'll be people that aren't from here, aren't from there. There'll be no sense of community. There'll be no history. It'll just be a place to live.
Correct. And you should want to have community, right? Right now, if you live in a neighborhood, there's less turnover in your neighborhood if they are homes, right?
Right.
There are people that rent, you know, but for the most part, you'll see the same people. Like, you have the ability to establish longer-term relationships than if you're an apartment complex. And nothing against apartments, you know.
There's a
blanketly.
place for them too. There is,
But the depth
Right.
of relationships, you know, for families, if you erase single-family home neighborhoods, which is happening in other parts of the country, not only do they make it harder financially, but they make that zoning illegal.
right.
Strange things are happening. It's like, why the war against families and home ownership, and what are we doing?
And there is a war against home ownership. Even, like I said, the corporate Americas, they might be building some single family homes, but they're building them to rent. It's called, you know, own to rent, not a
But
person,
when
a
it's
single
more
person.
profitable to build a Costco and 400 apartments, where
They're
it was-
gonna do that.
That property was low density residential.
Yeah, they're going to do that.
That's
It's
what it was
government
zoned
that
for in the
allows it.
county before it got annexed.
And that's where every decision really matters and every vote matters. You talked about Newfield. That's a really big project. That's a 15-minute city. When we talk about 15-minute cities, everything is walkable within 15 minutes. Your grocery stores, your schools. They'll have a doctor out there. They got a little village.
That is what's sold by Treasure Coast Regional Planning. But the reality of it is that's not how human beings in South Florida actually function. Everybody has a car. It's not Europe.
No.
Everybody here is going to have a car and a garage, and they're going to leave.
That's right.
And they're going to go to where they want to go shop. You know, it's not 1,000 years ago in a little Italian town. So you end up creating, again, I was there yesterday in Winter Springs. You have that mixed use type of neighborhood there and all that going on, but it creates traffic congestion.
Right.
You can't even park to get your coffee because you're trying to terraform Florida into a little European town, and
Right.
people all have cars.
Right.
It doesn't work.
It just doesn't work in America, and that's not what we're based on.
And we're not getting rid of our cars.
We are never going to get rid of our
I love
cars.
my truck, my V8.
Our country's huge, and we love to drive
God
all
bless
over.
America.
I know.
You know, like
Exactly.
I don't want to drive an electric car. I don't want to walk everywhere because it's 1,000,000 degrees outside.
And I'm surprised somebody in chat hasn't said this yet, but yes, this is something to do with what's Agenda 21, Agenda 30. Not going to go into them real deep, but they're United Nations plans promoting sustainability, the 15-minute cities, and that's kind of the term it's called, is sustainability. So, you know, really the debate is it's taking away your freedoms. You got more government influence. You got more government power over your everyday life, and we're Americans. We are founded on our freedoms, and we're going to fight to our death on those. And I think that's where, you know, the Agenda 21, Agenda 30, it does come in through the regional planning councils, but they go to conferences. It's being pushed worldwide out to these people to come back to their communities and say,
the urban
Mr. Commissioner,
planners
this is good.
that are educated in, like, I've been to more school than most people, right? In professional school, it can be almost religious in nature. You learn the tenets of what it means to be a well-educated, well-understood, knowledgeable professional, right? But in South Florida, that walkability thing, it has limits. And when you keep trying to turn all new construction into that because it makes sense in your head from a European standpoint, what are the real life implications of that? Traffic.
Yes.
And in Martin County especially, we have very narrow infrastructure. We chose that in the past. We can't handle that type of density here.
No, we can't. And we're seeing that now. I mean, our roads are just so
Car
crowded.
accidents.
Oh.
People are getting hurt and getting killed. It's not
yes.
just having to sit there for forever, which is awful. It's dangerous.
It is.
And, you know, the state preempted the ability to limit your density and limit your development based on your traffic infrastructure at some point. But that should be a consideration. What does that do to a municipality in terms of safety? The ability to evacuate if there's a hurricane. If you make it that dense here to where people can't get out or they're getting hurt. Or what's our population base? We're not all 20-year-olds here.
No.
There are older people, and in my field I see it because I look at people's health history. The average American's on 10 medications.
Wow.
People are stoned on
Yeah.
on,
They're prescription
on
drugs.
prescription drugs.
They mix them up, and goodness
And
knows.
it creates a safety hazard as well.
Chris, you were elected in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
What has your perspectives changed at all about how government is ran, how it influences communities? You ran to make a difference. Do you feel like you can do that in the capacity you're in?
Yes and no, right? When you see the state preempting you, but I would say these types of things like SB 1118, what it does is it doesn't make me discouraged. It galvanizes me, and you can feel it. It gets me more upset, and trying to find a way to cat and mouse, you know, just like we did in the city with SB 102, we changed in our last zoning in progress our parking requirements. So that was one of the things is, you know, if you can't park it, you still can't build apartments.
Right.
Right. So you need to have people in these positions that are able to navigate and also call those people out and not be afraid to take the backlash, because clearly they don't care.
Right.
They're not holding any punches. I don't know how you could make it worse. I'm sure they could find a way, but
Well,
Call them out.
making this retroactive to 2011 astounds me.
It's insane.
It is insane. And if you don't think Commissioner Collins doesn't care, I don't know how you can say that. Sitting in his lap is this bill, SB 1111.
40 pages.
Yes.
Not too many.
It's highlighted. He's went through it. He's
Section
read
1
it.
and Section 4 are the big ones.
And, you know, it just are there any other bills actually going through right now in Tallahassee?
There's a lot, but this is what's got my attention right now. But there's a whole collection of these that do similar things. It is a war right now.
It is a war.
On the Martin County difference.
And it'll come back next year if it gets defeated this year. That's the thing. You can't ever just
And
relax.
if you don't have people in those
fixed.
seats that are willing to say, I'm going to try to figure this out and navigate this, if they're just going to point to the state and be like, we were preempted, or we're going to get sued if we... No. You need people that are going to go to war and fight for the people who live here and their quality of life and their interests.
And let's talk about that for 1 second, because SB 102, which is the Live Local Act that was already passed, that bill passed unanimously, if I remember,
Right.
through the Senate and just a few with the reps. But behind the scenes, the reps and the senators were told, if you vote against this bill, we're not going to send money to your community.
They're worried about not being on the committees that
Yeah.
they want to be
Right.
on. There's a lot of...
Or what if they are withholding money that your community was counting on for whatever project?
I don't know, become more sustainable and don't require the state grants to function. I don't know.
That grants are the
Because
root
if
of
you're
all
completely
evil
subverting the
in so
character
many
of my
ways.
municipality, it doesn't matter if I get a
It is.
$500,000 grant for stormwater.
Right.
You're doing way more damage. I'd rather, fight back about that
Okay.
personally.
No, it's.
I'm tired of the golden
conversation.
handcuffs too. That's the problem with the political, all the way up the chain, is everybody's afraid to speak up and say the truth.
Well, you gotta, go along to get along. They say, right? So
I know
that's
Tallahassee's
kind of what
a long
happens.
way from Martin County, but
Yeah.
who cares if you're on that committee?
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
It doesn't matter. I'm a city commissioner. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares.
Right. Right.
Just do a good job. Don't sell everybody out. Like,
Right.
if anything, have a reputation for that you did as good of a job as could be done, and you helped represent the people that elected you.
And I think that's the biggest
What
thing.
the hell
and
is going on
this
with the world?
Yeah. what in the hell is going on with this
What's
world?
going on?
And you're a refreshing change because you're not getting anything out of this. And in fact,
No,
I'm
it's
sure
awful. Yeah.
it takes a lot away from your business.
I love it. I love being able to help, and I feel like I'm good at it. But it's a lot.
It is a lot. It takes a lot away. But you're not getting any kind of, you didn't rezone some sort of property that's going to benefit you or anything. It's your heart.
No, I haven't been offered a yacht yet.
No yacht, no little kickback.
Some
no
Bahamas
anything.
trips, but I never went. Yeah.
And East Stewart's obviously near and dear
East
to your
Stewart
heart.
is a hedge against the rest of the single-family homes in Stewart.
Right.
It's low-hanging fruit because of its location to where Brightline is scheduled to be.
Right.
And there's been a desire for a long time to have that be an Abacoa. But if that goes, why not cross Palm Beach Road and start going into those neighborhoods, or
It
6th
will.
Street and Stipman.
It's the creep.
It's going to creep, yeah. And then the city just becomes a mixed-use urban district.
Chris, what are you finding out there as you're out fighting the fight? And I know you're taking a lot of heat, especially in
Less
the city of
lately.
Stuart. Less lately.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
turned. There's a
It's been
tide.
quieter lately.
But there's still a lot of heat that you have to take. What are you finding out there just in general? What are you saying to residents? I mean, it's so important for them to speak out, but it feels like so many times people don't speak out unless it's right there in their face.
Correct.
So the Brightline station right now, what are you worried about Brightline? What are you afraid of that for? It's not, it's not here. They don't understand the impact until it's here, and it's like, oh, it's here. Why didn't you do something about that, Chris?
I mean, that's what got me
That's what
involved.
happens.
Is the first time I ever went in there, besides COVID and the mask mandates, was they were going to rezone the opposite side of my street to all duplex. And so we showed up and we said, don't do that. And then you start to get a sense of who's in charge. And it's a little bit jarring. These are not always intelligent people that are professional, these are the people that are making these decisions.
Right.
Okay, maybe I can make a little less money, eat some time, and be involved and help try to point this in a better direction,
Right.
and take a few slings and arrows and get a few high fives. And
Well, you touched on something there. Your elected officials are not necessarily the all-knowing, gurus of making a living or running a business or anything. They got elected.
Right.
They may not have any experience whatsoever of
And
ever
often
running a
they're
business
put in that position
because nobody else would run.
by people
okay.
that, and you can tell when you look at their campaign donations, that they
They'll
are a
answer to.
proxy for a consortium of people that put said person in that role.
Yep. And that's a tough thing because it's hard to get elected without money. But when you take money, folks, I don't care what you say, when you take money, you owe something back for it.
Yeah, that list of people is who they pick the phone up for.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Somebody was talking about the other day, why is some elected officials, take calls and others don't? So that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris is willing to say it. This is what's, you're an elected official, you're vice mayor, out fighting the good fight, and it's good to hear somebody that's so candid, and you're not worried about the political backlash.
I mean, I don't want to die.
No.
I don't think we're at that level yet.
You're not, but unfortunately,
I'm not costing anybody that much money.
No,
yet.
you're not. But unfortunately, there's threats that are put out there sometimes, and it's the unfortunate part of politics or things.
I'm a Christian though, so if you kill me, I win.
There you go.
It's a little heavy, but
It is heavy. It is heavy.
if you kill me, I win.
Murder.
My wife will probably kill that person.
So be careful.
Yeah,
Nothing like a woman scorned,
Yeah.
as they say.
So you kill me, I win. So I want to do a good job, and I hope we get back to that in the
Yes.
state legislature
Yes.
sooner than later. Please protect the Martin County difference.
Yes. This
Once it's
SB
gone, it's
118.
gone.
It's gone.
And this is such a perfect place. Don't ruin paradise.
And
Not
it's
for your
changing.
board committees or whatever is in it for you on a consulting gig when you get out of the state legislature. Just do good and please represent us, guys.
And then you folks out there that are just wondering, okay, we want them to do the right thing, write them. Again,
Mm-hmm.
Senator Harrell, Representatives Toby Overdorf, and Representative John Snyder, write them. Let them know your opinion, and it's the
And
best thing we can do.
thank you for putting daylight on it.
Yes, definitely wanted to. I appreciate you coming
Worst
here today.
case scenario is these things just kind of happen and nobody even knew. And
They do. They're quiet. And I first brought up this discussion because of the corporate ownership of single-family homes, how much that's changing. It's not a lot yet, but folks, 1980, 1970s, it was unheard of.
I bet it's more than your numbers.
It probably is now. And it is in Florida.
Yeah.
It is in Florida. 25% in Atlanta, 21% of the single-family rental homes are corporate owned.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they'll sit on them and they'll wait during economic downturns where other people get foreclosed on. They're not going to get foreclosed on. They own it.
Mm-hmm.
So appreciate the conversation here
Absolutely.
today, Chris. And,
Keeping it real.
Yeah. No, is there anything else you want to say? I know. Is there actually a vote coming up on the zoning in East Stewart?
So we have a meeting on the horizon, but I can't promise you that we'll vote. It seems like we've been doing more educating, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But we're trying to figure out, what streets do we want to be commercial, industrial, and what do we want to be restored back to single-family home zoning.
Right.
And so that's kind of the next meeting is, hopefully our commission as a whole, not just me, but we're listening to the neighborhood, and they're saying, no, we want Tarpon to be homes, we want Bahama to be homes. That should be commercial over there,
And I
Instead
know
of just imposing
what is good. Yes.
what Treasure Coast Regional Planning came up with.
And those folks again, they're hired. They probably were trained as a planner, but they never were.
That was one bill that I
builders
saw
and-
floating around that did away with them, and that would be fine for me.
There is a bill floating around. You're right. I can't remember which one.
Why
I saw that.
why are we paying these people?
Right.
You know?
Let the communities decide
Right.
what's best.
That's
Let
the
the
whole
market
point.
determine.
You create a bureaucratic class that subverts your elected officials who are supposed to represent people. We
Right.
don't need that.
Right.
Why are we paying them anything?
I agree.
It's a little spicy, but
Well, and let business do what business does. Developers know what works or doesn't work when they're developing things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have these regional planning councils coming in and telling commissions, no, it's got to be built this way, and you got to have mixed use, and you got to have
yeah.
retail, and it's like,
Right.
no, that doesn't always work.
and then just keep zoning.
Yes.
You've got your zoning that's been set up for forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Follow that.
Just do that.
We had
Why
a
is it so
wonderful
hard?
comp plan, but it is important. I always say start local, but it's scary to me that they're actually this SB 1118 has something that reverts back to 2011 and can remove
I haven't
you know,
even
certain
processed the
ordinances.
implications of that yet.
I haven't yet either, and I'm wondering what all is involved, because there's something in 2011 that was passed. They picked that date for a reason, so that was the start of it. That somewhere in this state they need to reverse, and it's frightening. So,
Madness.
well,
All right.
Vice Mayor.
Yes.
Chris Collins, appreciate you joining today.
It's been my pleasure.
Great conversation.
Thank you for what you do.
Absolutely. It wraps up our conversation with Vice Mayor Chris Collins. As we've heard today, the fight to keep single-family homes accessible to everyday families isn't just a local issue, it's a national one with deep implications for affordability, stability, and the future of our neighborhoods. If you found today's discussion insightful, be sure to share it with your community, subscribe, and leave us a review. And remember, housing is more than just a market. It's about people, families, and the place we call home. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay rooted. Thank you.